UFC Fight Night Paris, Moicano versus Saint Denis takes place this weekend, and I'm going to go through the entire card, starting with the early prelims, ending with the main event, giving my prediction and breakdown for every single fight on the card. And this is actually a really good card, stacked with some very fun fights once we get to the main card, but there's also some decent prelims, starting with the early prelim opener of Bolaji Oki versus Chris Duncan. This one's a pretty weird one to predict because both of them had pretty decent regional careers, but they've both under-delivered in the UFC so far. Bolaji Oki fought Timmy Kawamba and went to a split decision with him, and that guy took the fight on very short notice. He looked good, though. He looked technical. He looked technically sound. But you kind of expect that from a lightweight at this point. And Chris Duncan has also had a little bit of an iffy career because he went to a split decision with Oumar Morales, who was like 37 at the time, and not a top-level fighter in any way whatsoever, kind of a bottom-feeder guy for that division. And then he fought a Yanal Ashmuz, and he actually broke Ashmuz's arm in the first round with a body kick, and yet still went to a decision with him, where he didn't really perform that well in the last 2 rounds. So I'm just yet to see anything all that impressive from Chris Duncan. It's my opinion of him. Lost to Manuel Torres, got finished in the first round. Torres is a good finisher. But I think that might be the difference here. Both of these guys haven't really shown their level in the UFC. They haven't really lived up to it. But I'm just noticing that Bolaji Oki is a much, much faster opponent. Chris Duncan is a very slow guy for the division. Like, normally you would see this type of speed in the middleweight division, but he's showing it at lightweight, the way he winds up on kicks. He's a durable guy. He's a sound fighter. But he just doesn't seem to have that snap. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go with Bolaji Oki. I think he'll just be a little bit more fluid, a little bit more fast twitchy. And I think that might be the difference in this fight. So I'm going to pick him by decision, just getting off more damaging shots per round. Actually, maybe that don't win fights anymore. I'm going to calm down before I provoke another backlash. But I'm going to go with Bolaji Oki. I think he'll land more on... Can I predict based on that? I used to be able to every video. I don't know, guys. I'm joking. I am going Bolaji Oki. I think he's way better. And he'll do it to such an extent where it will be undeniable, even if Duncan does hold him against the cage here and there. We move on. Up the card. Minefield these days. Nora Cornolle versus Jacqueline Cavalcanti. I have my reasons. Now, Jacqueline Cavalcanti looked decent against Josiane Nunes, but Nunes was just... I did just pick her because, you know, I said she's uglier. She has more to fight for. This is everything to her. Nora Cornolle's also quite masculine. That's a good factor here. I'm going to go for external reasons. Both of them look pretty technical on the feet. Both of them have a similar way of fighting. But I'm going to go with Nora Cornolle because she's been prepared for this fight. Like, this is a short notice step up for Jacqueline Cavalcanti. She fought a month ago. By the way, this is a girl who's used to fighting about twice a year with, like, massive gaps between her fights. And now she's making a 1-month turnaround. Why is she doing that? Because Nora Cornolle was supposed to be fighting Germaine de Randamie on this card. So that's a big fight for her. She must have been locked in, giving it her all in training camp, making sure to stay on the card because she's French. You know what I mean? This is a big moment for her. But why is Cavalcanti making this 1-month turnaround? Sometimes I see that and I think, well, they must be in good shape and healthy then. But then I see, okay, she's from Portugal. This is mainland Europe, in France. This is a convenient location for her to bring her family to. She might not want to fly her family all the way over to the US. That's not really something you do when you're on your first contract in the UFC. Especially when you're fighting in, like, the Apex. It's just not really worth it to her. Portuguese, not too far from France. Quite a distance, but not crazy. You know what I mean? It's definitely a travelable distance. Very convenient for her fans at home and her friends and family. So I think she's jumping on this opportunity because when's the next time she's going to get an opportunity for a European fight card? No matter how much Europeans succeed in the UFC, they only go to Paris and London or Manchester and do it at 5 a.m. So it's a very rare occasion. So I'm going to go with Nora Cornolle. I don't trust the reasons as to why Cavalcanti wants to make this quick turnaround. I think she's doing it because, oh, my friends and family can watch me fight in the crowd, in an arena. And that makes me doubt. So I'm going to go with Nora Cornolle. They're both very similar in terms of skill. but I think she's more prepared for this. So I'm going to go with her. We move on. Up the card, Daniel Barez versus Victor Altamirano. Oh my God. I'm going to go with Altamirano on damage. But that might not be a factor. I'm joking, guys. I'm going to go Altamirano on damage. Daniel Barez has actually got really good wrestling and really good entries on takedowns, but his control time has always been a problem for him. He's actually been finishing fighters a bit more often, but if you look at those fighters, he fought a 6-9 opponent, finished him in the first round. Well done. Then he fought a 14-12 opponent, beat him in the first round. He fought a 7-9 opponent, beat him in the first round. He fought a 10-9 opponent, beat him in the first round. That's not good to me. You know what I mean? That really isn't good, especially going to a split against a 6-3 guy on the Contender Series and then losing to Carlos Hernandez in the UFC. Not bad. I think he's pretty good. But this is a guy where I'd be like, okay, if this guy were to go away and come back as a younger fighter, like if he was 25 when he lost to Hernandez and now he's back at 28, 29, maybe I'd be like, this dude's coming into his prime, he's going to get it done. But the dude's 35 now. Like, that's not a time where he's going to rebuild himself and become a new fighter, especially in the flyweight division. I know why the UFC's picked him back up despite being an absolute can crusher. And it is because, I mean, he recently lost to Jafel Filho, got submitted in the first round, by the way. That needs to be noted. Dude seems to lose at UFC level, but he's Spanish. And they need Spanish talent because they have none but Ilia Topuria, who's Georgian, you know, and moved to Spain when he was young. But, you know, he's Spanish, you know what I mean? They have Ilia Topuria. They have Joel Alvarez. They need a sprinkling of a bit more, which is why they've signed Topuria's brother, which is why they're keeping this guy and putting him on this card, hoping that he'll maybe get a win and be on one of those Spain cards that they do, because there's no Spanish talent in the UFC. So I'm going to go with Victor Altamirano. He's more proven at UFC level. Sure, he's lost a few fights to Felipe Dos Santos, split decision. Tim Elliott managed to get him down and do stuff with him. And he also lost to Carlos Hernandez, but I just think he's more proven in the UFC. And I'm going to go with him based on getting off shots, like landing the better shots. I know that's not how we score fights now. God, I need to stop! Because it was how he scored fights every time. But now it's not. So I'm gonna go with Victor Altamirano by such a gulf of a difference, because Barez just ain't all that on the feet, really. He's got good entries, people immediately get back up. I think Altamirano will be able to do just that. Also, Barez ain't too big for the division either, so I'm gonna go with Altamirano getting this one done. That's my opinion here. Little bigger. Yeah, I trust him to win. For sure. Got a big reach advantage. 4 inches of reach at flyweight goes a long way. Yeah, I'll go with Altamirano. We move on. Ailin Perez versus Darya Zeleznyakova. Now, Darya Zeleznyakova is a tricky one because she is good at striking. She actually has pretty decent striking, but it's the grappling that seems to be a problem for her. She seems to get taken down quite a bit, and she got taken down and beaten by Mullins, which isn't a great loss to pick up. Ailin Perez is a big woman for the bantamweight division, and she's got a lot of weight in her lower half, guys. I don't know if you've noticed this, but she's got a lot of weight in her legs, let's just say, and it makes her really strong on her entries, and she seems to be able to get these takedowns on these girls quite often. So, you know, Jocelyn Edwards is all right. You know, she was stuffing takedowns against Lupita Godinez, who does have pretty technical wrestling. I know this is a different division, but I still think it's impressive, to be honest with you. I do still think it's impressive, and I'm going to go with Ailin Perez. Darya Zeleznyakova is good. She is. I kind of want to pick her in a way, but I do worry about her when she gets taken down. You know, she hasn't seemed to put herself that far ahead in the striking realm from what I've seen in her fights yet. And, yeah, I'm going to go against her. I'm going to go with Ailin Perez, being big, strong, having good entries on takedowns, and doing work from there. Goat Shed, you know, you've got Gillian Robertson. They seem to make good women's grapplers with good jiu-jitsu IQ. So I'm going to go with Ailin Perez getting this one done, I think, with the grappling. We move on. Up the card, Taylor Lapilus versus Vince Morales. Again, I'm going Taylor Lapilus. This is kind of boring to predict because they have given a lot of the French fighters some layups here. But I'm going to go with Taylor Lapilus. Now, Vince Morales ain't all that bad, but I wasn't impressed. He's actually had a bit of a run since leaving the UFC, honestly. Like, he beat Hunter Azure, finished him in the third round with a Peruvian necktie. Luis Guerrero with a dash choke. That was on Tough Enough. Rising he fought for. He beat Yuki Matoya. I mean, you know what? Lapilus is tricky, though. And a man with a hairline like that, like, he's choosing that style. Like, this is someone who doesn't care. You know what I mean? He does not care. God, a part of me wants to pick Vince Morales, you know. I'm going to go Lapilus, though. He's just very awkward, very tricky to get good success on. Keeps his range. Doles down the fight quite a lot. I'm going to go with him. We've seen Vince Morales at UFC level before. It's not been too good for him. Taylor Lapilus is shorter with a reach advantage. I always like that. That's always a tricky style to fight. That's why Volkanovski was very successful in the featherweight division for as long as he was. Hopefully one day we'll see it again. So yeah, I'm going to go with Vince Morales getting this one done. But I'm going to go with Taylor Lapilus, but I'm telling you, Vince Morales ain't all that bad. Getting chewed up by Gutierrez to a finish ain't the best. Losing to Benito Lopez ain't the best. This was a while ago, though, you know. It was a while ago. Martinez beating Miles Johns. I think Lapilus is around that level. Maybe not quite as good as Martinez in terms of his viciousness, but I think he's a technically tricky guy to fight. So I'm gonna go with Taylor Lapilus getting this one done. Split decision. I think Morales will give him a tough fight, but I'm gonna go with Lapilus getting it done. We move on. Up the card, Ludovit Klein versus Roosevelt Roberts. This is an easy one. I'm gonna go with Ludovit Klein. I'm not gonna give too much explanation here. He was supposed to be fighting against. I'll find out who he was originally supposed to be fighting against. I know it wasn't Roosevelt Roberts. He was supposed to be fighting Nicholas Motta. When are they gonna give this guy a fucking test? I know he fought Moises and beat him, and, you know, he's beaten, like, Ignacio Bahamondes 3 fights ago. And they were like, okay, now it's time for Nicholas Motta. Dude, Ludovit Klein should be fighting, like, Carlos Diego Ferreira. Like, he needs one of those tests in the division right now. That's just outside the rankings. Maybe a Grant Dawson or a, you know, now Bobby Green's coming off a loss. That'd be a fun fight. But, yeah, it's tough. He can't seem to get these big matchups, so he needs a finish here. I think that's what he's going to get over Roosevelt Roberts, to be honest with you. Roosevelt is all right, but they're just sort of, they know him, so they're keeping him around. You know, he lost to Mateus Rebecca, got smoked in the first round. He missed weight for that fight as well, if I'm not mistaken. It says someone missed weight. I'm sure it wasn't Rebecca. I think it was Roosevelt Roberts. And I just don't see him at UFC level. You know, every time we've seen him in the UFC, he's been smoked. Finished in the first round by Jim Miller. Ignacio Bahamondes got him, you know. Finished him in the third round with a wheel kick. That was nasty. His memories of being in the UFC are not fond, let's just say. Lost to Austin Hubbard on Tough. You know, I'm not liking this, guys. Not liking it at all. So I'm going to go with Ludovit Klein. I think he's levels above the Austin Hubbards of the world. I know it might be a shocking take, but that's my opinion. So I'm going to go with him. I think he's going to be too powerful, too strong. And I think he'll actually smoke him in the first round and get a first round KO. We move on. Oumar Sy versus Da-Woon Jung. I'm going to go with Oumar Sy. Very good prospect. Da-Woon Jung is tricky, though. And he can do well against some of these strong, chunky grapplers. But this guy's like a tall, rangier guy. He's not as chunky as I actually just said. But I'm saying he did well against William Knight, who was a strong, physical guy for the division. And Da-Woon Jung was able to like sort of chuck him around quite a bit in that way. I'm going to go with Oumar Sy. 83 inches of reach, 6'4" at middleweight, at light heavyweight, sorry. Bulgarian top team. The grappling that's going to come from that. Training out of Paris, France now. Yeah, I'm going to go with him to win. Smoked Tukos. I know it was a short notice step-up opponent, but the guy fell through a bunch of opponents. He was supposed to fight Bellato, Tricoli, and then he got Tukos at the end. Not his fault. But he done what he needed to do. Made him look easy, finished him in the first round. And as of recently in his career, he's made a lot of people look easy. Last 3 fights are all by finish in the first round. Punches from back mount, rear naked choke. So why not follow that trend and assume that he's going to do the same thing? It seems to be a technique for him. So I'm going to go with Oumar's side, getting this one done by first round rear naked choke. And maybe people start to say, hey, we've got a bit of a problem here on our hands at light heavyweight in Oumar's side. We'll see if he can get it done. I reckon he can. Jung might be a bit of a test, but I'm going to go with Oumar's side getting it done. Seems like another nice matchup for the French prospects. We move on. Jung Cutelaba versus Ivan Erslan. You guys know I pick Cutelaba a lot. And not just because he was the first fighter ever to acknowledge my channel. I'm actually going to pick against him this time, though. I'm going to go with Ivan Erslan. He's all right, you know. And I like that he's fought good competition. You know, he's in his prime, 32 years of age. Fighting out of Croatia, top team Zagreb. He's fought some decent opponents. He fought a Dagestani guy, Ibrahim Chuzigayev. Lost by decision. Fought a 16-5 opponent. Got caught, got smoked in KSW. But he's fought in KSW. Just beat a 10-1 opponent in the first round by KO. KSW is a legit promotion, man. I rate KSW a lot. He fought Thomas Narkin, 17-3. That was for a title at KSW, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. And he got finished in that fight. But I like that. I like that. You know what I mean? I don't like when we see a prospect that we don't know how good they are. I like that this guy has sort of been shown as a once undefeated prospect that was at one point, you know, 9-0, coming up in the division. I like that he got shown that he needs to improve. And then he goes on another streak, and then he gets shown again, and he gets shown again. Stepping up, fighting Cutelaba. I reckon it's about time Cutelaba gets gone for good. I'm just going to keep it real with you guys. There's going to be a time where Cutelaba's reign will end. And when I say reign, I mean his rule over the bottom feeders of the light heavyweight division. Yeah, I'm going to go with Ivan Erslan. I think he's well-rounded. I'm going to go with him getting this one done by TKO, actually. I think he'll catch Cutelaba on the chin at some point. And I'm going to say second round TKO for Erslan. We move on. Up the card to another fight, which is Ziam versus Matt Frevola. Tricky. I'm going to go Matt Frevola, I think, over Ziam. Ziam is a tricky fighter, but I'm going to go with Frevola catching him. I could also see Frevola grappling him as well. Like, Frevola's entries on takedowns are pretty good. I know he got fucking tossed around by Armand Sarukian at one point, and in other fights he has been out-grappled by people. But he was doing pretty good against Benoit Saint Denis before he got hit with that head kick, and I don't know what he was doing when he got hit with that head kick either, by the way. The guy knocked out Drew Dober. The guy finished Ottoman Azaitar when he was 13-0, finished him in the first round. Put away Gennaro Valdez. He's had a decent run. Got caught by Terence McKinney, but I don't like that Ziam was completely smushed by Terence McKinney. McKinney's quite weak. He's explosive, but he's quite a weak fighter. I don't like Ziam's split decision over Puelles. He did get a win over Jai Herbert. The Figlak performance was all right. He did beat Figlak, but Figlak took it on short notice. Majority decision over Vendramini. Pimlet finished him in the first round. You know what I mean? Like, it does put it into perspective. We're taking Malarkey to a decision. Huffy finishes him. If you are of talent, you finish these guys. He's not doing that, you know? If you were of talent, you beat McKinney. Like, that's just a fact. McKinney can't beat people that are good. But he beat Frevola in round 1, guys. So, I don't know. I'm going to go Frevola, though. That gym seems to have got it all figured out right now. Great training partners. I'm sure he's been working on his grappling if he's got Aljo and Marab in the gym a lot. Definitely something that's going to be improved. So, I'm going to go Frevola getting this one done. I'm actually going to say he puts the thought of the takedown in Ziam's mind a little bit by getting a few of them that Ziam might get up from. And then he catches him on the chin. I'm going to say late first round or early second round KO for Matt Frevola. We move on. Steamroller. Morgan Charrier versus Gabriel Miranda. I'm going to go with Morgan Charrier. His record does not dictate how good he is. Should he have been signed? No. Was he only signed because he was French? Yes. But I'm over that. Dude had a good fight with Vucenic, who we've seen is talented. You know, he stepped up on very short notice, upper weight class against Cutelaba. I think he actually said, we've messaged, I think he said he's going to stay at lightweight, which is good to hear, you know, so we'll see a better version of him there. I think he looked good at lightweight on short notice anyway, but regardless, Charrier had a good performance against him. He had a good performance against Paul Hughes, who until he signed with the PFL was probably one of the best free agents and hyped up prospects to look out for. But now he's signed with the PFL, I ain't going to give a fuck about him, and no one should. But I'm going to go with Morgan Charrier getting this one done. Split with Chepe Mariscal. Mariscal's very good. He arguably could have won that on damage as well. Fuck, we don't do that anymore. Funny. Fuck, man. I'm going to mention that a lot because I say it, like, I used to say it all the time, like, on damage, but now that isn't a thing. So, anyway. I'm going to go with Morgan Charrier here. I think this is a good fight for him. Miranda's pretty decent, but he's pretty open. I see him getting smoked here. 34 years of age. Last fought Shane Young, who's like the runt of the litter at CKB, if you know who that is. Never really beat anyone good coming into the UFC. Got beaten on by Benoit, Saint Denis, and finished when he joined. I'm going to go with Morgan Charrier getting this one done by TKO. I'm going to say TKO for Charrier. We move on. Up the card, Kevin Jousset versus Brian Battle. You know what? I'm going with Brian Battle. There's been a few guys that I've seen Jousset fight that I've not been happy with his performance against. Battle, on the other hand, he smoked Angelusa. He was beaten up on Angelusa until the eye poke, and then after the fight was called off, all of a sudden Angelusa could see again and was ready to fight. It was a really weird situation. And Angelusa's pretty good, you know? Like, his straight punches are good. He's very technically sound. He doesn't have that next level to him where he's strong enough or powerful enough or fast enough, but he's a very technically sound fighter, and Battle was looking good against him, and he's quite an imposing guy in the welterweight division. So is Jousset, but I think Battle is as well. And Battle actually is going to have a good reach advantage here, like a really good reach advantage. Not that bad. Jousset's ain't that far off, but he's got a reach advantage here, which I like for him, while being shorter, which is good. You know, he's fought middleweights. He's used to that strength. And Battle's finished. AJ Fletcher looked great against him. Easily beat Gabe Green, looked good against him. Lost to Renato Kretinov in the grappling. I don't think Jousset is going to be grappling against him. He can grapple, but it seems like every one of his strikes turns into a kickboxing match. But the problem I have with him is Crosby's landing some. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't... Crosby's dog shit. Like, he is. Song Kanan to a decision. Get rid of him. You know, put him away if you're good. I think Battle finishes Song Kanan. You know? That's what I'm seeing here. So, I'm going to go against Kevin Jousset. Sometimes he lets fights get a bit away from him. And once Battle picks up a bit of momentum, he seems to carry it very well as the fight goes on. So, I'm going to go with Brian Battle here. I don't think he's going to be anything at welterweight. Like, he might get ranked, but I don't think he's going to be a top prospect. But I think he'll be like a mainstay of the 10 to 15 area. I don't see that in Jousset's future. So I'm going to go with Brian Battle getting this one done, upsetting the odds on home turf for Jousset, even though he trains and lives in New Zealand. He is of French origin. We move on. William Gomis versus Joanderson Brito. Gomis, Ramel from TGF, basically, this guy. I'm going to go Joanderson Brito smoking him. I really believe in Joanderson Brito. I think he's probably one of the least hyped featherweight prospects that deserves a lot of it. A lot of people are talking about, you know, Gene Silva, who is probably moving down to featherweight soon. And we've got other prospects in the featherweight division on the come up. You know, Lopez made his sprint, but he was massively hyped up before he even started to make that sprint through the rankings. Joanderson Brito is putting in more work than a lot of these guys. Bar the Algeo performance that he had, the guy beat Diego Lopez. You know what I mean? He beat Diego Lopez on the Contender Series. That's a great win. That's a solid win. He beat Shep Mariscal in round 1 by KO. You find sneaky names on this guy's record. You know? Puts out Shep Mariscal, finishes him in the first round. Beats Diego Lopez on the Contender Series. Smokes Andre Fili. Makes Lucas Alexander look easy, which was expected, but Lucas Alexander looked pretty good against Steven Peterson, Ocho Peterson, that legend. Smokes Weston Wilson, finishes Jonathan Pierce, was getting out grappled in moments. I don't see that happening against William Gomis. Gomis is a pick you at range, no danger, no threat. I'm going to win this by being boring and tapping at range type of fighter. And I just don't see that working at all against Joanderson Brito. If you give up ground against Brito and don't give him something to worry about early, he will walk you down and beat the shit out of you. That's too easy for Brito. He just beat Jack Shaw via cut on shin. But he was chopping the hell out of his leg before that, so I get it. It was a weird one. And Jack Shaw's a fucking bantamweight. Jack Shaw. My Welsh brethren, okay? I got Welsh in me. You're a bantamweight. You're skinny fat featherweight. Go back down, brother, and lock in on the diet. Sorry, it pisses me off. These guys lose once, and they're like, it's the weight division that's wrong. No, dude, you just got hit, and you got rocked, you know? Get back down there, you fat fuck. Either way. Joanderson Brito's too powerful, too explosive, and Gomis will give him ground, and will back himself up against the cage, trying to, like, land and clinch up and hit some knees to the body and stuff. Like, I just don't see that working against Brito's bruiser style. So, I'm going to go Brito by TKO. We move on. Nasruddin Imavov versus Brendan Allen. I'm going with Nasruddin Imavov. Dude, this card's sneaky good. Very sneaky good. I'm going to go Nasruddin Imavov getting this one done. I think he's more technically sound than Brendan Allen. A lot more loose on the feet. Brendan Allen does things, but he forces a lot of things. When he punches, it's like, ooh, but it worked. Oh, he actually won that exchange. That's how I feel when Brendan Allen goes in for exchanges, you know, like, okay, Brendan, I see you. You know what I mean? It's like I'm pitying it a bit, but it works. So he's been doing good, but Nasruddin Imavov's very good. You know, he's very technical. He's light on his feet. 5-rounders, I think, are his enemy. And sometimes he tries to hold back a bit. Give him 3 rounds, knowing that he doesn't have to do those extra 2. And I think he's going to pull out all of the tricks out of his bag. Like, we're going to see a Buckley-esque performance where he's, like, styling on him in the early rounds. That's what I think is going to happen here. So, and he had a good performance against Strickland. I know it was Strickland on short notice, but he did, you know, just fight before that. So he wasn't completely out of shape, but he wasn't in great shape to take the fight. But he looked good against Strickland. He won the 5th round. You know, he stopped Strickland's pressure a bit and had a great 5th round for himself. And I believe had a good 2nd round as well in that fight. So I think there's something to this Imavov guy. He's good in different ranges. At range, in the pocket, in the clinch. That's what you like to see from a striker. Sometimes we see guys like Adesanya where you see them at range and you go, wow, this guy's good at range. But then when they get in the pocket, it's like, oh, he's all right. And then when they get in the clinch, it's like, oh, this guy ain't got a clinch game. So he's good at all 3 ranges of striking as far as I see it. That's what I like about Imavov. And I think that's going to help him here against Brendan Allen. He's got good grappling. He's got good takedown defense. The guy took down Chris Curtis and held him there. That's impressive to me. Sorry, Curtis doesn't get taken down very easily. I know Allen got takedowns on him as well, but I'm saying that Imavov has that part to his game as well. I'm going to go Nasruddin Imavov, and when he fights in front of the French, like he did against Buckley, he starts feeling himself. Allen don't feel himself in the cage. First of all, because it's illegal, there's kids watching. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to be doing that. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have that aura to him, that loosey fluidity to him. I could see Allen, honestly, this is how I could see the fight. I could see him getting frustrated with Imavov getting all arrogant with him. And I could see him trying to prove a point. And I could see that failing. That's how I read this fight. So I'm going to go with Nasruddin Imavov. Decision win, 30-27, maybe 29-28. Allen will have moments and then have his hand up at the end of the fight because he's dumb. Why did he block me on Twitter? This isn't a personal vendetta against Brendan Allen, guys. But I just think he's one of those guys where we're going to see a decision blatantly go to the other guy and he's going to be stood there with his hands up at the end of the fight. That's Brendan Allen. You know what I'm saying? I can so see that. So I'm going to go Nasruddin Imavov, 29-28, 30-27. Different scorecards. The result will be the same. He'll get this one done. We move on. Renato Moicano versus Benoit Saint Denis. I know I've collabed with Moicano before, but I've been picking him in this matchup. And I think his jiu-jitsu is really underrated for the division. I picked him against Jalen Turner. A lot of people didn't. Maybe if Jalen Turner followed up the ground and pound, I would have been wrong there. But what I'm saying is, Gamrot weren't doing that on the ground with Jalen Turner. You know, we've seen Jalen Turner go up against a few grapplers now, and although they've won, they haven't broken him. They haven't, like, pinned him there. You know, we've seen him go against these guys. Even against Frevola, where he lost earlier and Frevola went for a ton of takedowns on him. You know, he just straight away got back up and Frevola couldn't really establish control. He smoked Riddell, smoked Malaki, smoked Teodos Medic. That's a decent win in hindsight. Medic has looked good at welterweight. I think he looked good against Oralblai. Didn't he have Oralblai in danger in the first round or something? He's a dangerous dude, Teodos Medic. Trained but a good gym as well, King's MMA. Bobby Green smoked him. Moicano's good. I like Moicano here. I like his jiu-jitsu dominance, and I think that's going to be the difference. Benoit Saint Denis, we saw it in the fight with Matt Frevola, and I even saw it in moments against Thiago Moises, but Moises shies away a little bit in the gunfights because he's jiu-jitsu first, which is just lame. But Moicano's a striker. You know, he's had striking success before in his career. I think at one point he was like the first guy to expose Cavalcanti. I'll get to that point that I'm going to make in a second, because you don't even probably remember that. He was whooping up on Ortega, exposing Ortega before he went for a takedown. I never understood why he did that. Shot in on Ortega with his head on the outside, got guillotined. He was mid-fucking cooking Ortega. He's very underrated, Renato Moicano. I know he got caught by Fiziev. Little early stoppage, but I'm okay with it. I think it was justified. Little early, though. Let's be real. They wouldn't have stopped that in a title fight, would they? I'm going to go Moicano here. I think he's underrated. One thing I noticed from Benoit Saint Denis, I'm going to check it right now. I think he did get taken down a bunch by Moises as well, but he just got himself back up. The way he gets back up, Moises don't tangle up the body lock and try and drag you back down. Frevola doesn't do that either. I'm noticing a trend in the way Saint Denis strength-based gets up, almost like a Derek Lewis for lightweight type of way. He's a weirdly strong guy. Very obviously, you know. Like, the dude had, like, better, maybe as good a control over Poirier in the first round as Makhachev did. You know, he had his back for a long time. It weren't looking good for Poirier. Fair play, it happened because Poirier was jumping those guillotines. But he's good. You know, he's very good and he's very underratedly strong for the division. But you look at his fight against Moises. He got takedowns in that fight. He also did get taken down at one point, you know. And then he sort of kicked his way back up straight away. And then against Matt Frevola as well, he got taken down twice, kicked himself back up. But when you do that, he kicks up and then he turns his back. That's where I think Moicano's going to get a takedown. And then I'm going to see Moicano see Benoit get the butterfly hooks, kick himself back up. But I think Moicano's tall and rangy enough in his style of grappling to see that shift from Benoit, get the body lock and sort of lock in a hook, drag him down, tie up his legs, get both hooks in on the back. That's where I see Moicano having success here. I'm going to go with Renato Moicano by third round finish. I'm going to go third round finish for Renato Moicano. Benoit's going to have success. Moicano might weather a storm. I think Benoit is going to be so square with his hips, trying to sort of berate Moicano up against the cage. And that's where we're going to see Moicano's reactionary double legs come into play. And that's going to slow down Benoit a bit. And I think by the third round, Benoit's going to look a bit more sloppy on the feet. Renato, with his experience, which I'm going to get to, is going to start landing a few better shots on the feet. And that's where once he gets a takedown, he'll have more success. I'm going to go rear naked choke Moicano in the third round is what I'm going to go with after some ground and pound from back mount first. One thing I want to add at the end of this is, and I'm starting to do this a little bit more with the decisions I'm making when it comes to picks. I'm going to read you a stat right now that is absolutely crazy to me. And if it weren't Benoit Saint Denis and Renato Moicano that the names were, you would use this stat to undeniably pick Moicano. Renato Moicano went pro in 2010. He's still somewhat young and in his prime, I would say. Benoit Saint Denis went pro in 2019. You're talking 8 years probably of experience in MMA training that Moicano has over Benoit, and 9 years a pro. I don't know how long Benoit was doing it, but it wasn't that long before he went pro. I reckon Moicano's got a decade of MMA experience over Benoit Saint Denis, and 9 years of pro experience over Benoit Saint Denis as well. I want to mention this though. Renato Moicano fought Jose Aldo At featherweight, just after Aldo had lost to Holloway, by the way, that version of Aldo, who was still got it, we saw in his run at bantamweight and his second run at bantamweight, and now he's starting a third one. The guy's still got it, you know what I mean? Even though people said he's washed because he lost to Holloway. How wrong were they? Holloway went on to be one of the greats. He fought Jose Aldo in February the 2nd of 2019. Remember what that date I just told you that Benoit Saint Denis went pro? Moicano was fighting Jose Aldo in a title elimination bout in the featherweight division in 2019, February the 2nd, while Benoit Saint Denis went pro February 16th, 2019. Different experience. I think people underrate that about Moicano, and I think Benoit's a little slow on the feet. I think you've got to be a fast twitch, catch you out of nowhere striker to beat a guy like Moicano. In fact, you kind of got to be like a Jalen Turner, but that still didn't work. For his own fault or not, that didn't work. I'm going to go with Renato Moicano here. I can't deny the gulf in experience between them. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.